Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second annual Global Goddess Fest. We're so happy that you are all tuning in. This is a week-long virtual festival built to inspire, activate, and connect female leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives worldwide. So thank you so much for coming, joining us, sitting here, taking the time to watch these videos, to receive the activations. And I'm super, super excited because today we are bringing on Krystal Brandt, who has magically weaved in and out of my life a few times. We've met at different events and beautiful workshops and conferences. And so she is an amazing human being, as you can see. And she is an ease mentor and the creator of the Courage of Ease movement. Epic. Like, I think we could all use a little more ease. I think the world could definitely, like, what? And even when I'm saying it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally need more ease because I'm already thinking, like, that sounds too easy. Like, oh, we're going to be diving so deep into this. I'm so excited.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, love. This is truly a pleasure. And at the time that we're recording this, I can't wait to see even how like the gifts of ease come back to me and listening, right? Through the telesummit, because it's always how it works. We get everything we need.
Totally. And so, you know, Krystal is an amazing ease mentor, and she helps high achievers create a life that they don't really need a vacation from, but that the self-care is actually their number one priority. So she spent 8 years in corporate IT implementing multi-million dollar software systems. And then after a while, she felt that like her soul wasn't really like in it. She was ready to expand, ready to grow, and ready to see what kind of magic she could actually pull out of her life. So she decided to travel to Bali, and she lived for the first time without the busy calendar and like these roles of what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call can relate, whether you've been someone that's like by the calendar, by the books, and like squeezing everything in and doing all this work for other people that maybe you're like, by the end of the day, you're like, what did I just do? Or maybe you're just stepping off of that and you're like, okay, now what? Now I'm like freaking out because, what is this new paradigm? Is this real?
Mm-hmm.
Is this real?
Just know that the freak out is normal. It doesn't have to last the whole time, but it is a very healthy part of the growth process.
Totally.
Know that.
And so after that, Krystal moved to California, and since then has been building this beautiful business that is created around building a life that she loves and helping others live in this space of feeling like they're living their vacation. How can your job become your vacation, that you're so excited about the work that you're doing, that you're just passionate, you're waking up in the morning so excited to be there. Mm-hmm. So, and then she also has this beautiful Courage of Ease movement that helps guide people all around the world to courageously quest this sort of lifestyle and putting self-care first. So your words, even just, you know, feeling into the times that I've met you and I've heard you speak and, you know, have brought your magic to places. It's so powerful. It's so potent what you're saying, because I think so many people are like on such an extreme, and you know, we find our ease in these vacation times that it's like we have to get away from everything. We have to dive into different substances, whether that's, you know, drugs and alcohol for some people, or maybe it's food, or, you know, putting yourself in this extremely luxurious place that's like so different from your normal everyday life, to be able to tap into, okay, what is this ease? What is this meaning to like be present? But like, what is separation? So really like bringing these two spaces together. And so maybe you want to speak a little bit more about that. And I know you've just beautifully crafted your life, so share your magic with us.
I would be so happy to. And, you know, I was in my corporate job when I first heard the Seth Godin quote of, God, I hope it's Seth Godin. Sometimes I get him and Tim Ferriss confused. I'm not sure why, but I think it's Seth Godin. I'm almost sure. Where he's like, instead of like doing this runaround, why don't we just create a life that we don't actually need to escape from? And I'm like, ding. How have I never heard that one before? You
Mm.
know, and at the time I was going through like a lot of just turmoil, and that was my normal, but I didn't know it was my normal because it was my normal. It wasn't until I was, you know, face to face with the therapist where she's like, you know, in my translation, sister, listen, like this is a really extreme situation you got going on. But it was so normal. So I think a lot of us navigate our day in such a high level of like low grade stress throughout our day. But even if it feels low grade, that just means that it's not peaking, because the peaks are so common of that peak stress, these really, you know, traumatic or turmoil or drama like throughout our day, that when we hear the word ease, it's like, oh my gosh, like I can just let go. And our nature is ease. And we forgot that for a while. You don't see nature struggling to be gorgeous and lush and abundant. You know, you don't see flowers holding back their full blooms and their full colors, but like we do. So this work, the courage of ease, is setting up these high achieving humans, you know, wherever you identify on the gender spectrum, to quest courageously for ease in a world built for the opposite, in a world built for fear, anxiety, depression, and all of these external signals that we're not enough constantly. So with you taking a stand for your own self-care, whether it's like putting the phone in the other room for an hour, right? Or getting outside and putting your feet in the ground, believe me when I say your body will thank you over and over and over again the more that you do that.
Isn't that so true?
Mm-hmm. It's honestly, it's time for us, particularly as women operating in a man's world, or women operating in sheep's clothing, trying to be men, but like we're actually women, right? It's time for us to put our foot down with ourselves. I was just talking to the client this morning. I'm like, listen, if someone messed with your kids, you would go straight up mama bear mode on them. Am I right? And she's like, oh, hell yeah. And I'm like, but why don't we go mama bear mode with ourselves to keep ourselves honest to our own self-care? Instead, we've been coached that it's selfish, that resting is lazy, that letting it be easy means you're like less than, or you're cutting corners and cheating. I beg to differ. And if you need anyone walking this planet to be your reminder, daily reminder that ease is allowed, you come hang out with me, love, because I got your back. This is where we need to be hanging out more, in your own flavor of whatever ease means, because this constant lack of sleep, lack of nutrition, lack of kind words to ourselves, it is taking our toll. And I speak from experience of watching my mom in her 50s need a liver transplant from the results of drinking too much, as a result of not knowing that it was okay to take care of herself in the same way she took care of us. Now she's thriving now. She's doing amazing. Our relationship is better than ever. But it was that experience that had me wake up to the fact that I don't want my future children at my bedside for things I can help right now. And that's the stand I'm taking for you too, because you deserve that. But we got to hold that. We got to hold ourselves to that.
Mm-hmm. So important. And so for everyone that's watching, you know, what is that thing for you that's kind of maybe shifting your perspective right now? What's that driving force behind you watching this video right now? And really taking those signs seriously, and not seriously in like a heavy and, oh, this is the weight of
Other to-do list,
the weight of the world. Yeah. But like, just notice like what is this driving force that is making you curious about ease? Because there's probably something behind that. There might be something that actually does really need to shift in your life. And, you know, now you have the perfect mentor in front of you to give you some tools And so I know you talk about, Krystal, about like unveiling these different self-care cornerstones. So I'd love to
Mhm.
hear what these cornerstones are.
Let's do this, because the self-care cornerstones are, they're my way of calling essentially our core values. So our core values drive us every single day, all day long, whether from what we wear to what we eat, where we sleep, who we date, where we work, what kind of work we do in the world. So when we get clear on what our core values actually are and what our self-care cornerstones are, that actually leads us in a direction of exactly where we need to spend our sacred time with ourselves to fill up our cup. Manicures, bubble baths, massages, they're awesome. They're some of my favorites, but they're not for everyone. If you're a super fiery woman who can like spit out 10 different pieces of art in an hour and then feel better after that, that's your form of self-care. For me, I'm not a fiery person. I'm a water and air, honey. So I like my bubble baths. I like the slowness, but that's taken time to cultivate which self-care things actually nourish me. Not just like, okay, I checked the self-care box today. Different,
Mm.
right? So let's talk about the self-care cornerstones. And I actually have created something really special for you all so that you can go through this process later in a moment of self-care, making time for yourself, to go through this process to find out your self-care cornerstones so that it's even easier. So you can take notes if you want, but like you don't have to. I'll have it all set up for you later. So the way that this starts is you want to just get a sheet of paper with 3 columns, okay? The first one, you're going to label my happiest day. Second column, you're going to write my self-care cornerstones. And the third column, you're going to write your self-care priorities. Happiest day, self-care cornerstones, self-care priorities. Okay, and you want to sit with yourself and recall your happiest day. And within 2 minutes, write it out. Okay, and the time box is really important because the most juicy, delicious things are going to rise to the top. Okay, so write down exactly what you want. So for me, one of my happiest days was the day I actually decided for sure that I was going to travel to Bali by myself 4 years ago, out of freaking nowhere. Like I was still in my corporate job. I'm like, where is this coming from? Seriously, I had this like intuition that would not leave me alone. Go to Bali. I'm like, what is a girl from Cleveland, Ohio gonna do in Bali? Where is Bali? I didn't even know where it was on the map. It's like,
I love that.
it's like when spirit calls. So I resisted it for months. So I'm like, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't go. And just like back and forth with the freak out. And the day that I decided, it was so powerful for me because I fully let myself open to what it was that was calling me there, which was incredible connection with other travelers. I had already been connected to other people who I knew were going to be there. So special. I felt so taken care of. I was going to learn so much about myself traveling halfway around the world. Like even before the whole process leading up to Bali and then traveling to Bali itself was like a life's worth of lessons for me. Right. And it was going to be also time to myself, time away. And at the time I felt like I really needed to escape. I needed something to just like wake me up. Right. So booking my flight that day was just such a happy day for me. So even in that story, I shared that in probably a minute or two, right? What bubbled to the top there were my self-care cornerstones, meaning the things that fill me up the most are authentic connection, having real conversations with real people, just like this one, like talking about the juicy stuff, the good stuff, authentic connection, holistic health in all areas of my life. And at the time, I was in a 9 to 10 hour a day cubicle job with no windows. It was a converted warehouse with no windows. I was not taking care of myself. Authentic connection, holistic health, learning and growth, traveling around the world, ding, ding, ding. Love of myself, which at the time I was just starved for, and nature. Hello, paradise. So you can see that checks all of my self-care cornerstones. I'm in my life making a decision about, do I do this? Do I not do this? Hemming and hawing over it, rather than doing the back and forth and exhausting yourself about just making the decision, let alone like what's required of you after that. What you can do, this is why this tool is so freaking powerful. You can write down your 5 self-care cornerstones, your core values. And if you get to put the measure, like if all 5 of them need to be like checked in those boxes and that equals your yes, do they check all the boxes? Then it's a yes. If it needs to be 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, you decide that. And so if you're making a decision, it's like boom, 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 decision made.
And is this for like any decision in your life?
Any decision, any area of your life. Who am I dating? You know, should I go out with this guy on Bumble? You know, like, should I go to this restaurant? Body, what's up? You know, and then just seeing, like, does it strike all of these boxes? It's down to the minute, but it's also the huge decisions like traveling around the world by yourself. Okay. The people that I've shared this with, they are so relieved to have this tool, because we get so up in our heads about making decisions when at the gut level, like, there are visceral signs inside of our body that lead us to our truth. But our mind, we have been taught to trust our mind over our body. And I'm actually trained in a Hawaiian spirituality and energy practice. And the Hawaiian people from this lineage trust the person in the community that makes decisions from their na'au, which is their gut, their like soul knowing place, more so than anyone that makes their decisions from their mind. That's powerful. So you get to practice this, but sometimes to give our mind a little override of like, okay, it checks all the boxes, can be very, helpful to line up like, oh, I knew this all along. Makes sense? So the last part about this, and this is where it gets really fun for the self-care, excuse me, is that third column. Now that we filled in our self-care cornerstones, now, depending on each of those self-care cornerstones, so for authentic connection, now I get to set my number one priority for that cornerstone this week for how to enjoy authentic connection. Some examples: a Skype date with a friend across the country, who I can like really go deep with, like have those awesome conversations. Coffee date with someone here, right? Authentic connection. It can even be authentic connection yourself, like an hour of journaling at night. Just give yourself time. Oh my God, unstructured time is so fun, you guys. But we don't give ourselves time. We're always like on the phone, reaching for the phone instead of connecting with ourselves. Okay, so you go through each of the self-care cornerstones. Holistic health. What's one priority I can set for myself to make sure that that self-care cornerstone is met? Learning, what can I do there? Love, what can I do there? Nature, what can I do there? Nature walk, something like that. And then the most important step, this is not to be missed. Are we all paying attention? Put it in your calendar.
Ooh.
Put it in your calendar, because as much as we make time for everyone else, why do we not schedule our own stuff in? You're going to show up if it's on your calendar, right? Put it in your calendar.
That is such a key one. I love that nugget.
It's so fun. And the thing about self-care too, I'll just share this. The more you do it in a very small way. So for these priorities, I want you to pick like such small amounts of time to do these. Start really small and start really winnable. Because what ends up happening is like the scale tips towards like, I got to do this thing, into like, I get to do this thing, into like, oh, yes, I've got some me time on the schedule. Yes, I am looking forward to that. So it becomes, the more time you spend giving to yourself in this way, the more times you build that trust that you're going to follow through, the more your body is already enjoying it before you're even doing the thing. And the more that it becomes this self-fulfilling thing, it like feeds forward to the next time, because you can't wait. It feels good. We're allowed to do fun things with ourselves. We're allowed to up the pleasure here. right? In a very stress-filled world.
Mm-hmm. And so I think a big piece of this is the follow through, because you can put it on your calendar and even still something else comes up. You're like, well, I'll move that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that like inspiration that you can give to anyone that feels similar to I feel? Because
Totally.
I have my self needs, like the main ones that I need, which is like waking up in the morning, like doing some sort of exercise, like meditating for a bit, and then having a delicious breakfast. Like I always get those done. But
Cool.
in terms of stretching my capacity for other things that I really would love to do that I know would up my pleasure game, I totally see myself just sliding them off the calendar, moving them over to
Mm-hmm.
the next day. And so, what would you say for that?
So check in whether that falls in line with your self-care cornerstones for real, or whether you're just thinking it will.
Mm.
So that's a great check. Like those things you keep pushing off, if you got a little list of them, or if you can make it real quick, see how they line up with your self-care cornerstones. Because the truth is, if they really do align, then they become easier to say yes to.
Mm.
The other part of this is that if they do match your self-care cornerstones on some level somewhere in there, and you're still finding yourself pushing it off, then we're into like habits and pattern territory, where somewhere along the way you learned something that said either you're not worth that time, right? Or it's not allowed, or it means something bad, so that you don't want to look too indulgent with yourself, with your friends, you maybe, what will people think of me? So do some reflection around, okay, and just ask your body. Your body is always holding the truth. So close your eyes, maybe do like some intuitive journaling and say, body, what's up with that? Why do I keep pushing this off? And just listen, like let your body respond. Sometimes your body responds with visions, with messages that you can actually hear. Maybe you feel called to write a sentence, but you have no idea what you're about to write, but you write it anyway, and then you read it back and you're like, holy shit, that's exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just, I think all of this is all about softening. It's softening our expectations. It's softening the rigidity that we have as modern day women that we've learned along the way. Goddess fest, like remembering that you are a goddess. Like the gods and goddesses were made in your image. And this is another great tool. I was actually playing over the weekend with the archetype of courtesan.
Mm.
Uh-huh. That's what I said too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how did courtesan like walk into the room? This woman who's desired. And this was like an archetype of the olden days in like, Venice and Vienna, of like these women who, mind you, were paid for their company, whether it's sexual or not, but they were alluring and they were magnetic and they had boundaries and they knew who they wanted to spend time with. So similarly, how would a goddess show up to this? Like, how would goddess Krystal show up to showing up for her, massage appointment? Like, would she cancel that? No, she would like look forward to it and create her whole day around that. So sometimes popping into archetype energies is a way to transcend our mind that might be critically overly thinking into like that juiciness of like the now.
Yes, I love that. And then that really like brings you back into your body too.
Sure
And it's
does.
like, yeah, this like, and there's so many beautiful images of ancient goddesses. And if you go into starting to learn and study, and this is a big aspect of the like beginning stages of my work, is looking at who were these goddesses, and look at all the different shapes and sizes and qualities that they hold, and how you can really embody and play around in that energy. And I think that impact that is created through you stepping into your own ease, I would actually love to hear what your perspective is. Like, what is that impact when you get to fully step into it? What happens? What shifts around you?
Mm-hmm. Can we go there, my friends? Let's do that. So what I have learned is that Let me just start here. Most of the things where I think it's just the way it is, or it's just what they say, or like the powers that be say it's a certain way, I have learned to be very curious of those rules. One of those rules is it's selfish to take care of yourself, that everyone else comes first. Everyone else's stuff has got to be done before my own. Okay. But what I have learned is that the more that I take exquisite care of myself, the more my life works. And it doesn't work with me like cranking the wheel of my life, blood, sweat, and tears, no pain, no gain. Oh my God, we could go on for hours with these sayings. Okay, it shows up in our language. But when I say my life works, it means that there is a current of energetic flow running and coursing through my life. And instead of hauling ass upstream against the current, I'm sitting there like the goddess that I am, floating and letting my life work for me, not me against it, right? I start to get carried places. There's a rhythm, there's a flow that I can now hear because I'm actually home to hear it, right? And if you feel so stumped, if like the self-care cornerstone stuff even feels like too much, just start with your body. My body was my beckoning home. And she called me home through a year and a half of chronic migraines, severe digestive issues, severe skin issues, and a herniated disc in my back by the age of 26. Okay, but I needed four huge things to lie me down on the couch to stop for a second. But I used to feel like a victim of my body, but my body led me home. She's like, girl, you just forgot that we're in this life together. Like, we were partnered up. Like, I'm here looking out for you. Come and play with me. Like, come home. So sometimes it comes in these like big wake up calls. Maybe it's a divorce, a car crash, whatever. Like, hopefully it's not. But like, our body's always calling us home. So why not start to listen with the whispers and start to learn that language? Because I promise you, the more that you invest in your self-care, the more your life starts to work. Those ripples just effortlessly flow out. And all of a sudden, people are showing up for you differently. Because guess what? You're showing up for you differently too.
I love that. Yeah. And there's, so much inspiration in all of this. And you don't have to have yourself go through this super traumatic thing to bring you into this moment. And so, just notice where you're at currently and start to take the steps right now. Like, don't wait. There's no reason to wait. What would happen? Maybe just try it on. If it feels like scary to go into the ease, I know I have my like ease boundaries that I have right now, and now I'm definitely inspired to like, okay, what would it look like if I just push them out a bit? And I think something that always helps me is remembering everything's not permanent. So, okay, maybe I'll just try it on and see how it feels. So maybe just try on something that maybe your future self that's a little bit more indulgent in their eases would do. Maybe it doesn't have to be perfect, but notice what happens after that. And maybe that will inspire you to like really, okay, maybe I should do this more. Maybe everything Krystal just said is like real.
Right. I think a lot of it comes down to our bandwidth to receive. Right. So if we're not in the practice of receiving from ourselves, to ourselves, from ourselves, then it's going to be really hard to receive that job upgrade or promotion. It's going to be really difficult to receive, a partner gazing into your eyes just because they want to, and they're just so overwhelmingly in love with you, instead of you turning away or contracting or pushing away because that makes you uncomfortable to receive that kind of love. Like, this is where that capacity to receive starts to widen and expand and deepen, because we are made to be in the state of love as much as possible. So if spending 5 minutes journaling or drawing that bath or making yourself a fresh juice in the morning rather than the coffee that makes you exhausted at the end of the day, like these little swap outs, they all count. There's an amazing book. I'll throw this your way as a resource. It's a more masculine book, but it's such a feminine practice. It's so interesting. It's called Slight Edge by Jeff Cohen. And it's all about the compound effect. So either way, whatever we're choosing, we're slight edging towards something. There's a small choice and then a small choice and then a small choice. And over time, just like the compound effect in finance, where like investments, there's just crazy magic that happens. The same happens in the self-care. So if you choose 5 minutes of journaling today, 5 minutes outside to just look at the sun and take a breath, get some vitamin D, 5 minutes the next day to just leave your phone in the car, 5 minutes the next day to not pick up the phone and that super dramatic person walks into your life again. You know, like these all add up towards our greater well-being, period. Your mind might tell you otherwise, like I have to do it perfectly and I have to do it for a really long time for it to count. Not true. Not true. Debunking, throwing it out in the trash. It's not true. Everything counts.
I love that. Oh, yeah, you have such amazing wisdom, and I'm super excited to like take all this on and just run with it. And I hope everyone that's watching will as well. And so Krystal is gifting everyone, she mentioned, this beautiful guide to really figure out what are these cornerstones of your self-care. So the link for that is right below this video. I definitely encourage everyone, click on it right now, download it, just get going with it. You know, there's no time like now. And Krystal, just thank you so much for being on this call on the Global Goddess Fest and sharing your mission and your message and activating women all around the world to really start, okay, what would this ease feel like?
You deserve it. You deserve it. You all deserve it. You deserve so much more and beyond. So keep moving forward. It's the little stuff, and just remember that it's okay to let it be easy. And thank you, Rae. Thank you so much for collecting this epic group of women from all over the globe. We are so blessed to live in these times that we can connect this way. So thank you for taking the reins and bringing all of our sisters together.
My pleasure.
I know it is. So your wheelhouse. Love you, sister.
Love you, everyone that came on to watch. We'll see you on the next video.
Bye.